Hello everyone, my name is Adrian Nico Susanto, and today I'll be talking about the effects of urban and suburban physical environment on mental health. Thank you for taking your time to listen to my presentation. Please stay till the end. So let's get started. The importance of this paper is to address the psychological aspect of urbanization. Because urbanization is not only defined by the demographic movement, but also psychological changes. For people who moved to these urban areas, or has been living through the process of urban change, the sudden changes in the environment bring high levels of stress, which in turn will result in mental health disorders. The psychological side of urbanization could not be more relevant today, as more than 50% of the world's population live in urban areas, and this number will increase to 68% in the next 10 years. Furthermore, according to a UN report, 10 more megacities will emerge soon, from 33 in 2019 to 43 in 2030. This means an increasing number of people in the world are at risk of developing a mental health disorder. However, despite an increasing number of people flooding into urban areas, there are still some who choose to stay or move into suburban areas. Which begs the question, does living in suburban areas promote better mental health than living in urban areas? I hypothesize that the people's mental health is negatively affected by the effects of urbanization, and that living in suburban areas is much healthier for the people's mental well-being. Okay, so after diving into previous literature on similar and related topics, I understand that people are affected by built environment through direct and indirect pathways. Direct pathways are places that we spend the most time in, like our home and our workplace, and indirect pathways are the social environment that this built environment creates. And also, increases in population size, population density, and heterogeneity are driving factors for worse psychological health. Other scholars also said that increases in population size, population density, and heterogeneity are driving factors for worse psychological health. Small suburban areas, which will lead to more social integration, which in turn will also lead to better social network and psychological health. This is because an overstimulation of urban areas to their limits will cause psychological withdrawal in people. The high population size and density will cause frustration and lead to other psychological problems. However, there was no relationship found between other environmental domains, such as accessibility of green spaces and neighborhood density, with mental health. To address this problem, 5 key domains are used. 1. Control over internal environment. 2. Quality of housing design and maintenance. And 3. Presence of valued escape facilities. 4. Crime and fear of crime. And 5. Social participation. But later scholars disagreed with the early research because there was not enough evidence to support the claim that urban life is harmful to our psychological well-being. But again, people have also reported being less happy and less satisfied when living in urban areas. Finally, this paper adds on to the literature by comparing data from past studies to find out the urban and suburban environment's effect on the mental health of their residents. And this paper will also agree with the earlier scholars' results that living in suburban areas will have a more positive impact on the residents' mental health. Okay, on to the first research data. Guide conducted a survey on participants from Greenwich, England. He also choose 5 environmental domains and an additional domain to find out how they affect the people's mental health. The 5 domains are 1. Control over the internal environment. 2. Quality of housing design and maintenance. 3. Presence of valued escape facilities. 4. Crime and fear of crime. 5. Social participation. And 6. Noise. The effects were measured by mental health and vitality scores. Mental health score is how residents felt for the past 4 weeks, while vitality score is how often the people feel happy or alive. Results show that those who live in undesirable conditions, such as damp or too hot, will have lower mental health and vitality score. Secondly, not liking the looks of the area they're living will result in lower mental health and vitality score too. The size and existence of certain places, such as homes and communities, green spaces, and entertainment facilities, will also affect mental health and vitality scores. Next, feeling unsafe to go out in the day, feeling unsafe to go out at night, and even having small problems like needles lying around in the neighborhood are also factors for lower mental health and vitality score. Furthermore, not having enough places to socialize also contributes to lower mental health and vitality scores. Finally, dissatisfaction with a neighbor's noise or the noise in the area will also lead to lower mental health, but no link to vitality score. And now, onto the second research data. Oliver used the 1986 Americans Changing Lives Survey and the 1900 US Census to find out the effects of metropolitan areas' characteristics on the psychological well-being of the people living in the area. The 6 social characteristics of metropolitan areas are size, density, log median household income, median building age, percentage white, and percentage commuting. And the 5 indicators of mental health wellness are loneliness, depression, sadness, happiness, and lastly, CSD. After analyzing the data, there are significant relationships between the 6 social characteristics of metropolitan areas and the 5 indicators of mental health well-being. Ironically, residents of urban and denser areas are shown to feel more lonely and sad, and additionally score higher on the CSD depression index. In contrast, people living in areas with lower population density feels less lonely and sad, and additionally score lower on the CSD depression index. Furthermore, and surprisingly, more affluent residents are more likely to feel sad and depressed, and less likely to report that they are happy. Their CSD depression index score is also higher than those who are less affluent. And lastly, people who have to travel further distance to their workplace feel more sad and score higher on the CSD depression index. After analyzing the results, the empirical data supports the claim that living in suburban areas, which have lower population size and density, promotes better mental health well-being than urban areas, which have higher population size and density. Since this topic is more relevant today than ever, urban planners have to address these problems: how to accommodate for population size, access to amenities and facilities, and urban aesthetics. One of the countries that has done a great job trying to solve these problems is Singapore. Singapore is a small country with no natural resources. So, to accommodate for the lack of space, they built high-rise residential buildings called HDBs. And to ensure that their citizens and residents have enough necessities, such as water, they built a water filtering system at a macro level called New Water. Furthermore, a very accessible and reliable train system to connect the city together called MRTs. In addition, Singapore has many green infrastructure and is even dubbed the Garden City. And now moving on to the limitations of this research paper, most peer-reviewed journals on these urban-suburban effects on mental health are of Western context. Western contexts are not always applicable towards Asian cultures. Different cultures have different values and in turn will produce disparity in results when using the wrong perspective to tackle a research question. Age and gender differences also play a part. And lastly, self-reported findings are difficult to trust because people who suffer from depression are more likely to report that their neighborhood environment is not up to standard. Therefore, it is very difficult to differentiate whether these self-reported findings are personal perceptions or objective reality. Okay, that ends my presentation. Thank you. Bye-bye.